Thank you all so much for being here. Welcome to Sales Meet Your New BFF, Growth Marketing. I know it's close to lunch, so we've got some surprises for you guys near the end, so stick around till 12:25. We promise it's worth it. So who are we? I'm Julia Bersin. I've been at Guru for about a year. I run most of our demand generation programs, have a background in B2B SaaS marketing, everything from events, webinars, partner marketing, customer lifecycle. And my fun fact is that I also teach corporate and private yoga on the side.
My name is Dalton Gilgor. I'm the account development manager or sales development manager at Guru. Been there for about 2.5 years, and my background has been, I was actually a customer of Guru at a business analytics company for the 2 years before that. So my fun fact, my parents named me after Roadhouse, Patrick Swayze. If for the younger people in the room, it's the best, worst movie you can watch, so I totally recommend watching it.
Open for debate after the session.
But just quickly about Guru, because that's not what we're here to talk about, but we're a knowledge networks or knowledge platform. So for sales folks, if you want one place for your content, assets, knowledge, processes, all those things you want to communicate, this is the spot where reps go to, and it's accessible in every single tool. And if you don't know what that means, here's what it looks like. But we don't want to pitch you a Guru.
No, so we're not here to pitch you about Guru. Why are we here? We're here to tell you a little story about how building a strong friendship between your sales and marketing teams and your revenue ops teams can help you create better prospect experiences, run campaigns that convert, and close more business. How many of you guys want to close more business?
Everyone.
Whew. Cool. And become real life BFFs, right, Dalton?
Of course. But that wasn't always the case. And a lot of things that like Greg and Kyle talked about were kind of the reasons. And we weren't always BFFs, and we were definitely not always the best of friends for sure. But there is some context for why that was, I think everyone can relate to. Just for some context about Guru, so I started in May of 2017, and we're pretty unique because we built like an outbound SDR function. I was the third SDR before we even had like marketing. So everything was like outbound. We were growing really fast. I was the 24th employee, and now we're at like 150, and we grew the SDR team to 12. The headquarters is in Philadelphia, where all of our sales reps are at. And again, our drum and goal was to get meetings outbound. So right off the bat, we had different goals.
Yeah, and so in Walks Growth Marketing, I was hired in August of 2018 to ramp up inbound programs. We had no demand generation, like Dalton said. And so like the inbound programs that we were hired to do was start email marketing, build out marketing automation, ramp up events, campaigns, webinars, everything paid, website optimization. And this was a brand new function to Guru based out of our small remote office here in San Francisco. At the time, I think there were 7 of us there compared to about 70 or 80 in Philly. And now we're up to almost 15, which is exciting.
And how this relates to like how we work together is, things are crazy at startups. We all have our own missions, and things move fast. You can't really slow down. And like I think their goal was 10% opportunity creation growth month over month, which is insane. And we didn't really realize how much we're going to be working together, even though we were excited about it. But we didn't even like talk, right? It probably took us a month before we even like met.
Yeah.
And at that point, it was already kind of like crazy, like what's going on.
Yeah, I think the bi-coastal challenge was huge for us too, because it was this brand new team starting across the country. And Guru didn't have budget to fly us out to Philly every week, nor did I necessarily want to do that, or vice versa. And so we had to figure out how to align our goals and become friends with the process.
It's also stretched thin as a new manager.
Yeah. And by the way, we do have slides, but feel free to stop us at any point if you have questions about the individual tactics. But we're going to walk through 3 key challenges that we faced over the last year and how those challenges not only put our friendship to the test, but really helped us figure out how to work together, align our goals, and become more successful as a joint team. So challenge number 1 was creating a good prospect experience. And this is something that I think both sales and marketing teams care about. Ultimately, you want to build trust with your prospects so that you can close deals and people buy from folks that they trust. And so one of the first programs that we started was email marketing and account-based marketing around that. And so like my first project at Guru was to implement HubSpot, which by the way, we love using. And we built out a lot of great content, started ramping up our email marketing, using top of funnel content to engage with prospects. And my perspective from the sales side was like, great, sales is gonna really wanna use all of this content in their existing email cadences. They're gonna love that we're complementing what they're already sending with really relevant information, and they're gonna wanna our prospects are gonna wanna take meetings with the sales team after they hear from us.
I kind of had a different perspective. I think as SDR managers can say is the big change management of my reps are going to kill me because marketing sending emails that we don't like. I think marketing and sales just have different approaches around like how we approach and add value, right? I think content is super helpful in education, but again, we built the business on this pain-based approach, and I'm sure some of you have gotten sales emails from Guru, but my team always had first touch. They were frustrated by coming up to me about this unsubscribed. It was like this whole change management piece, right? We kind of launched this program without setting like the guide rails and the bumpers away, and we actually had no insight into like what marketing was sending, what's the theme this month, like what are our goals, and like how can we use the content to help us like book more meetings or demos. And it caused a lot of friction because I think this was super early on, and I felt like I was kind of like holding everything for the sales team. It kind of feels like you're like kind of the guardian of like your team. And it's really hard to do that when you're just trying to get to know someone and work with them well and kind of kick the can down the road, but it actually ends up like hurting you more.
Yeah, and I'll take ownership. I think we ramped up so fast with the email marketing that we didn't provide enough transparency to the sales team around what we were sending, nor did we have our rules of engagement set up right away. And so that was one of the solutions that we want to talk through. So the primary thing that Dalton and I worked on was transparency. So we built out a Google Calendar of all the marketing communications and campaigns happening throughout the month. As you can see, there's a lot, but this gives full visibility with links to each of the campaigns so they can view them in HubSpot and see, hey, what's going on, what's exactly being sent, and hey, how can I like throw this blog post into one of my existing cadences with this particular audience. Another thing which I just alluded to is rules of engagement. So in the beginning, we were given just this open contact database fed into HubSpot. Great, a bunch of people to hit with top of funnel information on their use case in knowledge. And what we saw was there were some unsubscribes, and Dalton's team was bearing the brunt of that because we figured if they unsubscribe from marketing emails, they probably don't want to hear from a sales rep either. And so Dalton and I finally sat down and worked together and came up with some rules that worked for both teams. Happy to walk you guys through the details of that if anybody is trying to build out rules of engagement and figure out kind of what's going to optimize your email engagement rates. We actually saw our email open rates go up 30%, and our unsubscribes got cut in half just by setting some rules around that.
Yeah, and I think the communication piece here is similar to what Kyle and Greg, going back to their thing, it's like we were very quick to like, if you read conscious leadership, like solution it, like I'm going to be the hero, figure it out, but like we talked about challenges and goals and like build trust to like fix those together.
Yeah, and I think the final piece really around the friendship is Dalton and I started meeting on a weekly basis. And that seems like something that is so simple to implement, but when you're busy and heads down, the last thing you want to do is have a weekly one-on-one on your calendar and you're just like, oh, I have so much work to do.
Yeah.
But those meetings have become more of just our like bonding about our weekends and a little bit of work stuff.
Yeah. And there's still tons of things to improve. Like I think we can obviously add a lot more value to our prospects, but it's definitely been a crazy change in the last year.
Yeah, so I'd say by the end of Challenge 1, Dalton and I were acquaintances, at least, becoming friends. So the next challenge that we had to work through was creating campaigns that actually convert. So again, like I stated at the beginning, my team was hired on to ramp up our inbound programs. And one of the primary programs that we ramped up really quickly was field marketing and events. So we went from maybe one event per month, a sponsored event, to about 4 to 6 events per month, which is a huge increase, spending a lot of money on both sponsored and self-hosted events. We've done a mix of larger conference. We did our first conference last year, and smaller targeted executive events. And we were spending a significant amount of the marketing budget on that. And I looked in at our reports and the campaigns and saw that the sales follow-up and meetings were not getting generated at the rate that I had expected them to.
You did not like me.
And I was pretty pissed at Dalton and his team. And I was thinking, event leads are some of the highest quality. We're all here for a reason, right? We connect with people in person. We buy from people. And so, that was a strategy I'd seen work really well at past companies and was kind of wondering what was going on Dalton's side and why we couldn't make this work.
Yeah, and I think from my perspective, again, like when you ramp up the marketing team on the SDR side, I think you really have to start thinking much sooner around like what your team's going to look like the 6-9 months down the road, because I think we were reacting a lot. So for example, like I was trying to catch up on like messaging on follow-ups and like had no context what was going on, or like routing was really messed up. And again, we work in like account-based sales development model, at least when this was kind of going on. And we had, our ADRs were working decision makers and champions in our accounts. So when like I love talking to SDRs here, but when an SDR came in on an unknown account, like no one's gonna reach out to them. Like we had no processes set up internally or for our prospects to really add value. So it was super frustrating. I was really mad, but honestly, like again, my problem was I didn't have like the type of relationship to go to Julia and be like, say no or say like this is a huge challenge. I just try to like, get through, which we all try and do in startups for sure.
Yeah, and I think there was kind of a turning point where Dalton felt comfortable actually talking to me and saying, hey, like, I'm trying, but this isn't working.
Yeah.
And it took us getting to a certain point in our relationship for him to feel comfortable saying that, especially over a Zoom meeting or over the phone, not even in person. And so we both figured out together that we needed to make some changes. One of the things we keep coming back to is transparency. And so immediately around events, like we needed to be providing more context to the sales team. Why would these leads be relevant to them versus their targeted account lists? So we use our own product Guru to build out event cards with all the details for events, not just for the folks attending like logistical stuff, but also who's the target audience? Who are you gonna expect to get leads from? Like what's the context so that they feel empowered to follow up? Another way that we provide transparency is we have Slack channels for every event or project that we're working on, and the folks that are involved are in those Slack channels. They're public, so even if you're not, you can go and spy on what's going on in other events. And that just helps, again, like make sure that people know that this is all open information, and we want you to have the tools that you need to be successful.
Yeah, I think the other big pieces here too are like Julia, also like get your demand gen or people involved in your SDR meetings. It's not just alone, like get other folks even outside of marketing. But for Julia's case, like bring them into the meetings, tell them what they're working on, get them excited, the context around pre and post event outreach to get more engagement and get more out of your events. Also just helps, again, she got to understand how we worked and the feedback loop was also really nice too. We can provide feedback there. The other two things I really want to talk about are actually Asana. We're actually rolling out Asana org-wide at Guru. Asana, between me and Julia, has really helped for transparency and getting things done faster.
You guys all familiar with what Asana is?
Does anyone not use Asana? Who doesn't use Asana?
I like. It's a project management tool, so it helps you track. You can track projects and tasks associated, deadlines. You can build out portfolios. Mm-hmm. A lot of different teams will use it individually at companies, but we've just recently, like Dalton said, rolled it out org-wide so that we have these cross-functional projects and everybody can be involved and know what's going on.
I think the couple big things that Asana helps. One is like the decision-making process of what needs to get done. Like she doesn't have to wait to Slack me back at 8 p.m. She just knows if I like check off a task. I think you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You create processes and like how to run an event or how to follow up with leads, and you can create templates in Asana to do that. And then I think it's also going to helped us work together. So org-wide, I think we're going to have ideas around like assigning reps certain outreach or tasks that they know what they need to get done to better align our activities around events. So big fan of Asana for sure.
I was actually about to ask, is like, how are you working together to build out this content for those cards? Because I know you would be interested in the pre-event, setting up the context of the event or the webinar, and then on the back end, right, understanding what's our message, what's the email, how should that be configured, what the voicemails look like?
So we've actually iterated on this a few times, but usually marketing will create the card about the event itself, who the audience is, all the logistical pieces, invitation copy, et cetera. And then Dalton's side, or like on his team, will build out like what the messaging is on the ADR side, how sales should be engaging with prospects, what's the expectation around that pre and post event. We've combined that into one card for some. Sometimes we'll build it out in a couple different ones. The nice thing about Guru cards is they can be really small and digestible, and it's easy to find multiple. So
yeah, I've iterated a few times. So like for example, like I just copy like a HubSpot has a really good template for like how to follow up with events, like the frameworks. So I'll do like pre and post sale cards, and then create like here's a sales off cadence, here's your list of contacts to import. We're still iterating it, like it still bounces, but I think right now I'm probably going to own that for the sales team in terms of prospecting on the post event stuff.
What's the timing? How early are you creating for the event that takes place?
I mean, I would say we're always super prepared. Like the SDR conference, for example, was maybe like 1 or 2 weeks. Some of you I probably invited to dinner like last night. But I think moving forward, I would say probably a month. Like we're trying to like get that stuff out, but we haven't done that right now, to be honest.
Yeah, and it depends. Like if we get an event or a list pre-event, then we'll have more time. We'll know that we need to build things out further in advance because there's going to be a lot more pre-event outreach. If we don't, then we will like kind of take it a little bit later. I think that the final piece that we want to touch on here is like our RevOps team and how involved they've been. One of our RevOps heroes is actually here. She spoke on a panel at 11. Her name's Mel. She's probably the third in our BFF ship over here. And she helped us, hey. No, it's okay. She helped us implement a lot of process changes to also help around follow-up. We realized that leads from events weren't getting routed correctly. This is a challenge that...
I was trying to solution it for sure.
Yeah, and that the previous session talked about this too. And so like we just had to sit down and have a working session with her and tell her the problem that we were trying to solve, and she figured out how to architect it for us. Similar to what the last session said. It was like, we don't know exactly like what needs to happen on the back end, but we know the problem that we want to solve. And so like leveraging the RevOps, which is a lot of you guys too, expertise to really help us out. I mean, if you notice like there's tension between your sales and marketing teams, like feel free to step in and just be like, hey, I can help you guys solve that problem. Because you're the brains behind it. Yeah.
So on that point about sales marketing collaboration and kind of incentivizing people to take certain actions, particularly for events, because that's a big part of our outreach as well. Dalton, how are you, or maybe Julia, how are you incentivizing SDRs if you're still doing a lot of more of the outbound motion to get them to spend time to get people into events, because it's a heavy investment of time as opposed to a net new meeting that is booked. Like, is there specific compensation or a spiff? Like, how do you
That's a good point. So we're still trying to figure that out. I would say right now, currently on the outbound team, the one that works strategic lists, we're incentivizing like trial activation, so getting them inbound anyway. So we haven't really figured out that side, and that's managed by someone else on the SDR team. In the past, we've done spiffs where it's like if you get people to meetings, you get to go to the event, et cetera. I still think we're trying to like have a formula for that. And then on the inbound side, so we just split the team actually this quarter. So I'll be working on like inbound product-led growth and kind of that building out that prospect experience for people that maybe aren't ready to buy Guru yet. I think we haven't figured out what the incentives are, but I think it's going to be around like not meetings. It's going to be around like maybe opportunity or close one revenue side. We haven't really figured it out yet, so hopefully that helps. Yeah, it's a good question though.
Hey.
If anyone has any ideas, come please
Sam.
talk to me.
Yeah, I have a question. You talked about previously getting event leads prior to the event and having them. What are your thoughts, or do you have data on like the efficacy of getting the event leads and names beforehand? Are you seeing actually like later conversion to the meeting and then close the one, or does it not really have an effect whether or not you have those?
I don't know that I've seen a pattern or that we have explored the data on whether we get an event list beforehand. My assumption would be that it would be higher, the conversion rate would be higher. I do know that in some of the process changes that we made, we were able to see the ratio of inbound to outbound meetings go up 3 times. So yeah, and part of that was just ramping up inbound programs, but another part of that was making sure that the team felt empowered to actually follow up on those and know that those were going to be an opportunity to generate meetings.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think it goes like, I think we don't have the data maybe on like the revenue side, but like, again, the importance of having your team feel confident in what you're doing. Like when Greg and Kyle said that, I was like, oh yeah, that's really what we're trying to do. So I think, again, we're still trying to improve that, but the fact that your team is confident that if I have a list of leads, I know what to do, and like we get our AEs involved and maybe get that deal closed faster, or they have that important invite with that executive. So yeah, so does that answer your question? You're welcome. Cool. So we have about 4 minutes left, so.
All right. So our final challenge, to close more business. And again, I think this is one that almost all of you guys raised your hand as something that your companies are trying to do. That's great. So the example here was ramping up our demo request process, or revamping, I should say. And this was probably one of the biggest tests at Dalton's in my friendship. I mean, he's already shaking his head over here. So like Dalton mentioned at the beginning, one of my team's primary goals at the beginning was to ramp up opportunities 10% month over month, which is actually a huge amount. And so like one of the ways that we did that was trying to ramp up demo requests because those are a high value, high intent lead coming in. So through like website optimization, a bunch of channels, we were able to ramp demo requests up 3 times quarter over quarter. I think this is the old deck, which is pretty significant. And we put a lot of resources towards this.
Only if you told me. Only if you told me that's what you're working on.
Yeah,
I
so,
wasn't ready.
and he's just making a pass at how I wasn't transparent enough in this process. But we then looked at our beautifully built out mode reports, which were also brand new, and we're so excited to see demo request conversion rates. Unfortunately, those numbers were nowhere near where I thought they should be.
They were really bad.
They were pretty bad.
Yeah.
And so Dalton, what do you have to say for yourself?
I was too busy working outbound, basically. No, I think it came down to a couple things. I think we cared a lot about the customer experience on our website, and then our internal, like our SDRs and our AEs on following up with that. It was really bad. So we had no like automation, no anything. Like the leads kind of live one place, and again, we had no one actually like working this. Like my charter was outbound, so I was kind of like just saying yes and doing this, but not really like taking the time to speak about all the challenges that are happening as we went from like, again, tripled our demo requests. So it was super frustrating, but I think this was when like, obviously like I was able to be like, we actually sat down on one-on-ones and talked through the things that we're actually frustrated with, be honest, like be able to speak your truth. And we came up with a couple good solutions, I think.
Yeah, and I think this one aligns really well with friendship too, because both Dalton and I were frustrated separately, and when we hadn't expressed our frustrations to one another, then it feels like it's me versus him. But when we both sat down and we were like, hey, we're both frustrated, then it's us versus this problem, and we can tackle it together. And so that's what we did. So once we sat down and realized this was something that was worth elevating, we brought it up in our weekly pipeline meeting, which is the time we spent with marketing and sales execs talking through our goals, where we are to goals, looking at the dashboards, and coming up with what are the things we need to solve this week and what programs can we implement right away. Hey.
What does your SDR marketing meeting look like? What's the agenda, just really quickly?
So the pipeline meeting is RevOps and sales and marketing leadership. The agenda for that has actually shifted a bit, but what it's typically been is we walk through our dashboard and look at our key metrics through the month, talk through any pressing issues. We will like highlight certain opportunities and talk about like what the status is on those, and then talk through what marketing campaigns are going on that are feeding towards the goals. And so it's a conversation usually.
And is RevOps there serving as kind of like a neutral arbitrator of any sort of issues?
That and our chief of staff who like ask the questions around the data. Like we have a chief of staff and data analyst. But yeah, I think we're going to move towards like a start, stop, continue. I think that probably is what our goal will be in those meetings, more than just like talk through what's actually happening, but more like, are we continuing this? Are we stopping it? Are we going to start something else?
Yeah. It's 30 minutes. Every so often we'll do an hour. Our CEO just started joining the meeting too for more transparency. And RevOps serves a really important role in that meeting too, because like they need to understand if there's something that's not working on the reporting side, they need to understand it. If there's something that's not working on the process side, which usually gets uncovered in these meetings because we're really looking deeply at our dashboards, then like they're one of the solution folks, and so they play a huge role. Yeah, in the back.
One question. So in addition to what you learned through the challenges, was there anything key that you had to unlearn in order to move forward without,
Yeah, I mean, definitely.
Yeah. Do you want to go first?
Stop saying yes, say no.
Yeah.
I think that's like honestly, as a new manager, like the delegation piece and saying no and not saying yes to things. Don't be the solution. So again, I go back to conscious leadership too. It's not like yes or no choices. You don't have to be the hero. You don't have to like do everything. Like let other people, your RevOps team, solve that challenge.
Yeah, my biggest thing was don't skip one-on-ones, don't cancel one-on-ones, because it's so easy to be like, oh, I have way too much to do today, like, we'll just cancel, like, I'll see you next week.
Yeah.
But those times are super important from a relationship building standpoint, and then also, like, things do come up
I
that
think we gossip more than actually work on this project.
we probably do, but that's important. It's really important, too. In the back, sorry.
How do you manage the process of like the back and forth flow? Because obviously SDRs, you're gonna have a limited time with a lead on the outbound side. You want marketing to nurture those leads. How do you accurately manage that back and forth so that they can both get time with those leads?
Yeah, I mean, I think our process is pretty well integrated right now. The goal with most of our marketing communications is to keep them really high level, top of funnel. In fact, in our rules of engagement, we don't exclude open opportunities usually just because the content is so high level. And if you're in an open opportunity and you choose to unsubscribe, it's not going to affect the communications between you and a sales rep because they're already on an email to email basis. They're not just getting hit through SalesLoft or whatever tool you use. So yeah, it's integrated.
So I've heard you guys give credit to RevOps a couple times now.
A lot.
It's
It's
amazing.
the only thing.
Would you
Thanks.
guys have been able to solve these problems or work it out without them?
No, because what Kyle said, like we didn't have the technical background that some of our RevOps team could do. Like our solutions wouldn't have been scalable. We probably could have figured it out, but it wouldn't have been. We probably had to replace it in 3 months as we grew the team.
Yeah, I think like the last session, both Dalton and I are somewhat tech savvy. Like I kind of technically run marketing ops,
Somewhat good.
but it would take me 10 times the amount of time to solve this problem in Salesforce that the RevOps person can do. Plus, I don't have all the permissions, unfortunately.
And
Yeah.
like for example, like on the finish, like the close more business deal, like we used our digital marketing engineer to build some of the forms and some of the calendars that we built inside for the customer experience. And then I worked with our RevOps team in SalesLoft to automate some of the inbound processes for leads.
Hey.
And back, yeah.
So I know Dalton's team was existing when your role was created. So looking back, do you think that you could comment on like the timing of when your role was created relative to where Dalton's team was at, and whether or not you would do it at the exact same time, or maybe actually do it sooner or later?
Yeah, I think it was an important time for Guru to implement inbound marketing. It was like a huge untapped channel for them. That's not to say that like just all the outbound motions weren't working. What I think that I would do differently is before we just started ramping up programs was to restructure the ADR team or like provide some alignment from the get-go because they yeah, thanks. So yeah, I mean, I think the primary issue was that our goals really weren't in line, and so if inbound marketing is coming in with the goal of ramping up inbound programs, then the ADR team needs to be comped on inbound meetings. Like there's some simple things that needed to be put into place that we didn't implement quickly enough.
Yeah, I think it was like we wanted marketing. I think if I'm starting a new marketing function, I would try and integrate first with what your SDRs teams are doing and make that successful first before you kind of like go on your own road there.
Yeah. We are like running short on time, but just to recap, so I think that there were a lot of themes that come through in learning to work well together and actually being really close friends. And I would say that Dalton and I over the last year have actually genuinely become really close friends, and it's helped us work together so much better than before. And my one last tip on that is learn that other person's weakness because that will get them to do things for you that you want. And in fact, Dalton's favorite candy is Kit Kats, and we have a bunch to hand out to you after for your pre-lunch dessert.
Gets my attention
So we're
inside.
almost done.
Yeah. I think the other thing too is like just I think there's like sometimes like you can't be friends with people you work with. Like bring your whole self to work, be friends with the people you work with. Like that connectedness piece is so important for a culture. Like our culture is like assume good intent, have grit. But when you're friends with people, I think I've learned like you're gonna speak your truth more, you're gonna work harder, you're gonna care more, you're gonna hold yourself more accountable. So I think like definitely try and do that. And I think that was kind of what I learned for sure.
Yeah, it's 12:30, so we want to give you guys permission to leave. This is the tech stack that we use that also helps us be successful communicating. Happy to stick around and answer any questions about how we use all of these things. Super, super important in helping us work better together. So thank you so much, and come up here and get a Kit Kat.